What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today, I am going to hop into Joe Douglas's press conference from yesterday afternoon. We did a couple of videos yesterday afternoon, but Joe Douglas spoke after, and there were a couple things that I wanted to touch on this morning. We're going to talk Joe Douglas. Then we have Aaron Rodgers come on the Pat McAfee show, so I'm sure we're going to have something later on for this afternoon. But there were two things that Joe Douglas said in his press conference that really rubbed me the wrong way. And it was admitting a mistake in both times, right? And this is not here me saying that like Joe Douglas has to be 1000% perfect all the time. That's unrealistic expectations, right? To expect out of a general manager. But the two things that he talked about were two things that were fairly obvious to the average fan. If an average fan could figure it out, but the pro scouting department couldn't figure it out, it's a red flag. I'm sorry, but it is. It's a red flag. First, we'll start with Dalvin Cook. Joe Douglas's quotes on Dalvin Cook is a little concerning, and let's roll the tape.
Like I say, Dalvin came in here and was a phenomenal teammate. Obviously, he didn't have the production that I'm sure he wanted or any of us wanted. But again, that's a little bit of a hindsight 2020 thing, because at the time when we signed Dalvin in August, there was still we felt good about Brees coming off the injury, but he hadn't played. He hadn't been in practice, and so we thought that was a great insurance plan to have in place, and we felt like we were getting a Pro Bowl running back at a under market price at the time for a Pro Bowl back.
So Douglas says they felt like they were getting a Pro Bowl running back, and look, there were a lot of people that wanted Dalvin Cook, but there was also a large section of people saying, I don't know about this one, guys. I mean, if a dummy like me with an NFL Plus account and access to like even the most basic of analytics could see a trend and be like, hey, like this doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction. In fact, there's some underlying numbers that are actually a little bit more on the concerning side. And like he's in his late 20s now. Running backs usually that's the time where unfortunately it begins to go. It stinks. Running backs are very short prime, and I think he's past it. And then the pushback you got for that take, and then for Joe Douglas to say that we thought we were getting a Pro Bowl running back for under market value. What? Did they watch 2022? Like, and again, I understand he had a 1,000-yard season. A Pro Bowler, right? That's what he quoted. He was a Pro Bowl running back. If that doesn't show the status or lack thereof of what an actual Pro Bowl nomination is, the All-Pro is the one that you want, but Pro Bowl is unfortunately a popularity contest, then I don't know what is. It's how could they not possibly see this going that way? And also something that he said again this time and was a talking point throughout the entire process of getting Dalvin Cook in here was they wanted to bring Bree Hall on slowly and have a running back in place who can carry the workload. Okay, that logic makes sense. That logic is not flawed. That is not where the mistake lies. They then signed Dalvin Cook, who, guess what, was a little injured and wasn't ready and wasn't 100% at the start of the season. So they had a running back in Bree Hall entering his second year, still very much so in his prime, but was going to be on a pitch count early on in the season. Okay, understandable. Not expecting Bree Hall to be the dude, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year coming off of ACL. Totally fine with that, with taking it precautionary at that point. But then how do you go and sign a guy who's not going to be ready at the start of the season? It was someone who needed to be ramped up also. So you had two running backs who needed to be ramped up. It didn't make sense. And that is not hindsight 2020. That is like applying even the most basic of logic to the situation. Hindsight 20. I'm going to use that cop out on anything in my life going forward. Anytime I make a mistake, hindsight 2020. Because I can't count how many times Joe Douglas said that in his press conference yesterday. And again, I like Joe Douglas. I want him to be the guy to figure it out. I think he deserved some criticism for this year. I understand these guys, right? Like Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are getting another chance. They're easy people to root for, but they also, like, they have flaws to their game. And I think this was a major, major flaw and a major, major red flag. That was a scary answer, a scary look at the pro football scouting department. And then it doesn't get much better because Joe Douglas said that he thought they had a good plan at backup quarterback. This is another one, folks, that even the most basic of fan knew this probably wasn't a good idea. The Jets wanted to keep Zach Wilson and reset him, right? They made that so clear at the end of the last season. Robert Saleh said, basically go away to the beach somewhere, read a book, get away, reset. Okay, I was on board for that. I was saying, like, clearly there is talent there, and it's never, ever been an issue of talent for Zach Wilson. But up here, something is very, very wrong. So, what do? Should redshirt him. Okay, so what does that mean? Bring in another backup quarterback. And I'm not even saying, because a lot of people will point to, well, they should have signed Mike White. And Mike White as a backup quarterback, just isolate that, fine. But here lies the issue with Mike White. Injuries. The guy could not stay healthy. He left like 50% of his starts with injury. It was insane. So I didn't even mind them letting Mike White walk. Totally fine with that. But there were plenty of veteran quarterback options that they could have added to this room. Plenty. But instead, they said, we're going to have a quarterback competition. I'm going to use air quotes for competition because the quarterback they brought in to have competition with Zach Wilson was Tim Boyle. And unfortunately, we had to see Tim Boyle start a couple of games because the Jets, even when Aaron Rodgers went down, said that they were comfortable with the Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle quarterback room. And they would add a passer-fire signing of Trevor Siemian. Fan base is crying about backup quarterback. Let's add Trevor Siemian. And sure, over the course of his career, he's had better numbers than both, Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle. But out of what you could have had, it was probably a little bit down on the pecking order of options for Jet fans. So if something as obvious as Dalvin Cook not being a Pro Bowl level player in 2023, in the traditional sense of what a Pro Bowl player should be, and a plan of Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian as your quarterback room after the Aaron Rodgers injury, like if both those things are so obviously not a good idea, but the front office sees it that way and doubles down on it and is like, shrugs it off and it's like, hindsight, what can you do? Man, that's just not a good look. Sorry if that's harsh. Sorry if that's maybe overcritical. I don't think it is. I think that's a legitimate concern about this staff. It was really, really bad. It was an indictment on Joe Douglas and the pro scouting department, which has been an issue for this team. They've had some good finds in the draft. They've had their misses as well. It's been a mixed bag for the draft. They had an excellent 2022 draft. Will McDonald, I'm not out on Will McDonald as much as the pick was a confusing one, but he could still be a player. Joe Tippmann looked solid. They found some guys in the draft, but outside of DJ Reed in free agency, oh my God. Don't do yourself a favor. Don't look up the Jets free agent history under Joe Douglas because it's not a good one. It's not a good one. And what does that fall under? Pro football scouting. Not good. Let me know your thoughts on both of these comments from Joe Douglas down below in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.